She looked at him for a long second, then said something he never expected to hear. "Pretend you're my boyfriend," she said quietly. "I'll pay you extra." He thought he misheard her. He was standing there in a delivery uniform, holding a paper bag, sweat on his forehead after a long shift. She was the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, sharp suit, glass office, power in every move she made. A black delivery man. A wealthy CEO? This wasn't a joke. And it definitely wasn't a compliment. Because the way she said it wasn't playful. It was desperate. In that moment, he had a choice. Walk away. Or step into a role that would change both of their lives in ways neither of them could imagine. And what started as a paid favor would soon expose truth, prejudice, and a side of society most people pretend doesn't exist. His name was Marcus Reed. At least, that's what the name tag on his uniform said, one of those thin plastic badges people barely notice. To most customers, Marcus wasn't really a person. He was just the delivery guy. 32 years old. Born and raised on the south side of Chicago. Hard-working. Quiet. Observant. Marcus had learned early in life how to stay invisible. When you're a black man in America, especially one doing a job people look down on, you learn quickly that drawing attention can be dangerous, or at least uncomfortable. So Marcus kept his head down, did his job, and went home. Every morning before sunrise, he loaded his truck. Packages. Food orders. Office deliveries. Long hours. Low pay. No benefits. But he showed up every day. Not because he loved the job, but because he had responsibilities. A sick mother who depended on him. A younger sister still in college. Bills that didn't care about dreams or potential. Marcus had dreams once. He used to talk about starting his own logistics business. Used to imagine wearing a suit instead of a uniform. But life had a way of shrinking dreams when survival takes over. That afternoon, Marcus's route brought him to a place he'd never delivered to before. A glass tower in the heart of downtown. Security desk. Private elevators. Floors that smelled like money. The company name was everywhere, on walls, screens, even etched into the glass. Arden and Company. He didn't know much about it. Only that it was powerful. And expensive. When the receptionist called upstairs to announce the delivery, Marcus waited, shifting his weight, feeling slightly out of place among marble floors and designer shoes. Then the elevator doors opened. And she stepped out. Claire Whitmore. Early 40s. Sharp eyes. Calm posture. The kind of woman people instinctively listened to when she spoke. She was known in business magazines as a self-made visionary. A woman who broke ceilings in a world dominated by men. But what those magazines didn't show was the exhaustion behind her eyes. Claire took the package from Marcus, thanked him politely, and turned to walk away. That should have been the end of it. But she stopped. Turned back. Looked at him again, really looked at him this time. Marcus noticed it immediately. That pause. That hesitation. He felt it often. People sizing him up. Wondering who he was, where he came from, what kind of man stood in front of them. Usually, those looks were filled with judgment. This one was different. Claire asked, "Do you have a minute?" Marcus blinked. "Yes." She glanced around the lobby, then gestured toward a quiet seating area. "I know this is unusual," she said, lowering her voice, "but I need to ask you something." Marcus's chest tightened slightly. In his experience, when people in power said, "This is unusual," it usually meant trouble. Still, he nodded. Claire took a breath. "I have a corporate event tonight," she said. "Investors. Media. Board members." She paused again. "And they won't stop asking about my personal life." Marcus didn't understand what this had to do with him. She continued, "They expect a certain image. Stability. Normalcy. Then she said the words that made time slow down. I need someone to attend with me. Just for appearances. Someone respectful. Calm. She looked straight at him. Pretend to be my boyfriend. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Not because of the request itself, but because of what it represented. Why him? Why a delivery man? Why a black man in a uniform? His mind raced with possibilities. Was this some kind of test? A joke? A power move? Claire quickly added, I'll pay you. Very well. Cash? No pressure. Marcus stood there, heart pounding, suddenly aware of how exposed he felt in that polished lobby. This wasn't just about money. Or pretending. This was about crossing invisible lines. Lines drawn by class, race, and expectation. And Marcus knew that whatever decision he made next, nothing would stay the same. Marcus didn't answer right away. The lobby felt suddenly smaller. Too quiet. He looked down at his uniform, creased pants, company logo stitched across his chest. Then back up at Claire, perfectly composed, waiting. Just tonight, he asked carefully. Yes, she said without hesitation. Only tonight. Marcus exhaled slowly. He wasn't naive. He understood how the world worked. People like Claire lived in one reality. People like him lived in another. And those two worlds rarely touched, except when one needed something from the other. How much? He asked. Claire named a number. Marcus almost laughed. It was more than he made in a week. Cash, she added. Up front. He hesitated, not because of the money, but because of what this could cost him in dignity. Being seen as a prop. A convenient image. But then he thought about his mother's medication sitting on the kitchen counter at home. The bill stacked beside it. All right, he said quietly. For tonight. Claire nodded, relief flickering across her face for just a second before she masked it again. Thank you, she said. I'll have my assistant get you something to wear. Something to wear. That was when it truly sank in. Less than an hour later, Marcus stood in a private dressing room several floors above the city. The assistant, polite but distant, handed him a suit. Tailored. Expensive. Marcus ran his fingers over the fabric, almost afraid to touch it. No one had ever handed him something like this before without expecting something in return. When he changed and looked at himself in the mirror, he barely recognized the man staring back. Same face. Same skin. Different world. The uniform was gone. But the weight of it still clung to him. When he stepped out, Claire looked up from her phone. For a brief moment, she froze. Then she smiled. It fits you, she said. Marcus nodded, unsure how to respond. They rode down in the elevator together, silent, side by side. As the doors opened to the underground parking garage, the distance between them felt wider than the building itself. Claire broke the silence. There are a few things you should know, she said. We'll say we met through mutual friends. We've been dating casually. Marcus listened, memorizing details like lines in a play. No public displays, she added. Just enough to look believable. Believable. Marcus wondered what people would believe when they saw them together. The event was held at a luxury hotel across town. Cameras. Valet lines full of black cars. People dressed in confidence and entitlement. As soon as they stepped inside, Marcus felt eyes on him. Not curiosity. Scrutiny. He noticed the way conversations paused when they passed. The quick glances. The whispers. A black man in a designer suit on a CEO's arm didn't fit neatly into the expectations of that room. A man approached them, mid-50s, silver hair, expensive watch. Claire, he said warmly. Then his gaze shifted to Marcus. And you are? Marcus opened his mouth, but Claire answered first. This is Marcus. My partner. The word landed heavily in the air. The man's smile stiffened, just slightly. "Well," he said, recovering quickly, "how interesting." Marcus caught it. That subtle change. The moment someone tried to hide their discomfort behind politeness. As the night went on, it happened again and again. Some people were overly friendly, asking Marcus where he was from, what he did before this. Others barely acknowledged him at all. One woman leaned toward Claire and whispered, loud enough for Marcus to hear. "He's very confident, isn't he?" Marcus didn't miss the implication. Confidence wasn't the word she wanted. Still, he played his part. He held doors. Smiled politely. Spoke when spoken to. But inside, something was tightening. Because this wasn't just an act. This was a mirror. And the reflection was uncomfortable. At one point, Claire excused herself to speak with an investor, leaving Marcus standing alone near the bar. That's when a man stepped beside him. "You're a brave guy," the man said, swirling his drink. Marcus glanced over. "Brave?" The man smirked. "Walking into a room like this with her takes confidence." Marcus held his gaze. "Or maybe I just belong here like everyone else." The smirk faded. The man took a sip and said nothing more. When Claire returned, she noticed the tension immediately. "You okay?" she asked quietly. "I'm fine," Marcus replied. But it wasn't entirely true. Because as the night wore on, Marcus began to realize something. This event wasn't just stressful for him. Claire was watching everything too. The looks. The whispers. The way certain people treated him. And for the first time, the armor she wore so naturally started to crack. She saw it now. The way the room reacted. Not to him as a man, but to what he represented. And that realization unsettled her more than any board meeting ever had. By the end of the evening, the room felt heavier. Not louder. Not busier. Heavier. Marcus could sense it in the way conversations shifted when he approached. In the polite smiles that never reached people's eyes. And Claire felt it too. She'd hosted events like this dozens of times before, fundraisers, launches, investor dinners. She knew the rhythm. The fake laughs. The strategic compliments. But tonight, everything felt exposed. Because for the first time, she wasn't just in the room. She was watching it. From a different angle. At one point, an older board member pulled Claire aside. "This is unexpected," he said, lowering his voice. "Is this really the image you want right now?" Claire followed his gaze to Marcus, who was speaking calmly with a waiter. "What's wrong with the image?" she asked. The man hesitated. "You know what I mean." She did. And for the first time, she didn't brush it off. Later, Claire and Marcus stepped outside onto a balcony overlooking the city. The noise of the event faded behind them, replaced by distant traffic and cool night air. Marcus loosened his tie. "You didn't tell me it would be like this," he said, not accusing, just honest. Claire leaned against the railing. "I didn't think it would be either," she admitted. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Marcus spoke again. "You know what the hardest part is? It's not the looks." He turned to face her. "It's realizing how normal they are." Claire swallowed. Marcus continued, "I see this every day. Just in different ways. Different rooms." She looked at him then, not as a role, not as a solution. But as a man carrying something heavy. "I asked you because I needed control," she said quietly. "I needed to manage a narrative." Marcus nodded. "I figured. But I didn't think about what it would cost you," she added. That was the moment something shifted. Because for the first time that night, Claire wasn't the one with all the power. Inside, a minor scene was unfolding. A guest, slightly drunk, overly confident, had begun asking Marcus questions again. "So what do you really do?" he said with a laugh. "Before all this." Marcus met his eyes. I deliver packages, he said calmly. A few people nearby chuckled awkwardly. And tonight, the man pressed. Tonight, Marcus replied evenly. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. The laughter stopped. Claire had returned just in time to hear it. The room went quiet. And then, unexpectedly, someone clapped. Soft at first. Then louder. A woman near the back spoke up. Good for you. Others nodded. Not everyone. But enough. The man muttered something and walked away. Claire felt something twist in her chest. This wasn't part of the plan. And yet, it felt more real than anything that had been. When the event finally ended, they sat in the car in silence. City lights streaked past the windows. Claire broke it first. You don't have to keep pretending, she said. Marcus looked at her. I know. She hesitated, then reached into her purse and handed him an envelope. His payment. He didn't open it. This started as a transaction, she said. But it doesn't feel like that anymore. Marcus considered her words carefully. Then maybe, he said. You should ask yourself why you needed it to be fake in the first place. The car slowed to a stop outside his apartment building. Not a luxury high-rise. Just brick. Bars on the windows. Real life. Claire noticed it all. The contrast was impossible to ignore. This is where I get off, Marcus said, opening the door. He paused. You didn't do anything wrong by asking, he added. But now you've seen something most people in that room never have to see. He stepped out. Claire watched him disappear into the building. And for the first time in years, she felt unsure. Not about business. About herself. 3 weeks later, Marcus was back in his delivery uniform. Different route. Different building. Same work. As he handed a package to a receptionist, he heard a familiar voice behind him. Marcus. He turned. Claire stood there, no entourage, no assistant, no armor. Just her. I've been looking for you, she said. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You know this isn't part of the deal anymore. She nodded. I know. They stepped aside. I replay that night constantly, Claire admitted. Not because of what people said, but because of what I finally saw. She paused. I built my career believing I was different. Fair. Progressive. Her voice softened. But I realized how often I benefit from a system I never question. Marcus listened, silent. I don't need you to pretend anymore, she continued. I just needed you to know, you changed something in me. Marcus studied her face. Then he said, change only matters if it shows up when no one's watching. Claire nodded. I know. They didn't walk away together. There was no dramatic music. No perfect ending. Just two people standing in a hallway between very different worlds. Marcus returned to his truck. Same seat. Same engine hum. But something inside him felt lighter. Not because he'd been paid. But because he'd been seen. And Claire returned to her office. Same title. Same power. But now, every room felt different. Because once you truly see inequality, you can't unsee it. Some people think change starts with grand speeches. But most of the time, it starts with discomfort. With moments that challenge the roles we accept without question. A CEO. A delivery man. A fake relationship. And a real awakening. Because sometimes, the person society overlooks the most is the one who ends up teaching the most important lesson.